What will happen when you encounter a lurking anaconda? Why shouldn't you feed caiman turtles? How easily can a cat be scared? And how can you avoid a bear attack? Watch now. In this episode, you'll see incredible animal moments captured on camera. Let's start with this unusual shot captured by people during a bullfight. I don't know about you, but it seems to me that everything happening there is very dangerous. Personally, I would never want to participate in something like this. By the way, do you know what bullfighting is? It's a traditional Spanish spectacle whose main element is a duel between a mighty bull and an experienced matador. At the beginning of the bullfight, the bull is released into the arena, where it's already awaited by a person dressed in bright clothing. The matador uses various moves and tricks to handle the bull and showcases art to the audience. The amazing moves, known as passes, include approaches to the bull, dodging its attacks, bows, and feints with a red cape. The main goal is to deliver a spectacular performance and show, demonstrating skill and courage. Of course, it sounds unusual, but bullfighting also sparks much debate in society. Some people consider it entertainment and part of the culture, while others see it as a manifestation of cruelty towards animals. What do you think about this? Fighting bulls is, of course, thrilling, but I feel more at ease at home. Besides, you can also encounter something unusual here. Look at this cat in front of you now, which has learned to appeal to its owner. Whenever the fluffy one wants affection, it folds its paws in front of itself and starts waving them, as if begging to be petted or kissed. Now this is what I call the perfect pet. Now let's move to the backyard and see what interesting footage was captured by the surveillance camera installed there. It seems like people were expecting a long-awaited birthday gift, but they couldn't accept it immediately. They decided to deal with it in the morning, and as it turned out, that's not always a good idea, especially if you live near a forest, because at any moment, a terribly curious possum might run out from the bushes and snatch the present. Well, maybe the critter also had a holiday and thought it was for him. In general, the possibility of an animal celebrating a holiday is quite real. I'm sure they have something similar, we just don't know about it yet. Why do I think so? Because I look at other animals, like elephants, and see how intelligent and resourceful they are. For example, this giant immediately ran to his friend who had fallen to the ground with incredible care and attention. We understand that the person was testing the elephant's loyalty and reaction speed, but the animal genuinely thought something had happened and rushed to help without hesitation. Isn't that amazing? We've all been told since childhood to watch our steps when we go somewhere, and if you think that's nonsense, just look at this. For those who don't watch their steps, a similar unpleasant situation might occur. A girl was leaving her house and hadn't even taken a single step outside when she immediately found herself in an unpleasant situation. She came face to face with her greatest fear in life, a snake. Despite the fact that the slithering creature was insignificantly small, it was more than enough to scare the inattentive girl. Fortunately, her absent-mindedness was quickly dispelled, and now I'll think she'll always keep her eyes open, even at her own doorstep. And if anyone thinks the previous video was the peak of weirdness and absurdity, then you just haven't seen the next clip on the web. The residents of Scotland were, to put it mildly, shocked when several alpacas escaped from their farm. People regularly fed them high-quality food, provided water, kept them warm, and the animals just left as if nothing had happened. But luckily for the people, it didn't take long to find the alpacas. It turned out that the escapees had come to the shores of Loch Ness to have a good time and maybe even swim. One of the alpacas indeed got into the water and, in an amazing and amusing way, started to resemble Nessie, the legendary creature from the myths. Agree, from a distance, it really does seem like that very monster, doesn't it? You know, to personally encounter a monster, you don't have to go to a mystically shrouded lake. You just need to visit the people in the next video because they have a similar dog. Imagine the face of a potential burglar who breaks into the house in the middle of the night, goes into the hallway, and is met by it. The thief would faint from fear, wouldn't he? I wonder if any of you would like to have such a companion at home. If so, write about it in the comments. By the way, it was a Caucasian shepherd dog, just in case someone finds it useful. What else is extremely useful to know is that when you encounter such terrifying creatures, you should never, under any circumstances, run away from them. It could end badly. It's a pity, of course, for this good-natured guy from the next video who, in his foolishness, decided to run away from an aggressive duck. I don't know how, why, or when it happened, but the guy in the video is really fleeing from a tiny duck. Give it a thumbs up if you also didn't know these little creatures could run so fast. To the great fortune of the person in the next video, the bear didn't emulate the duck and didn't desperately chase after the person. It just slowly followed him, showing off tricks. The person never removed his finger from the protective spray, but judging by the bear, the predator didn't want to attack. It seemed to me that the bear just wanted attention and love. It demonstrated its skills in climbing trees, but received no response. Offended, the bear eventually turned around and went back into the forest, looking for other, more emotional and open viewers. In fact, the man from the previous video was relatively lucky. He met a not-so-large bear, plus he had a protective spray. It's a different story for the surfer in the next video, who was not only in the water but also encountered a real great white shark. Naturally, there was no talk of protection. The predator either attacks the person and comes out victorious, or swims past and leaves him alone. There's no third option. Fortunately for the surfer, luck was on his side that day, and he remained unharmed. This boy was also resting somewhere in the water, not far from the shore. His parents were around and nothing seemed to indicate trouble, but suddenly, out of nowhere, a cheeky manatee appeared and calmly began to take the boy's board. At first, the boy thought the manatee was attacking him, but then the parents explained to the child that there was nothing to fear. The aquatic mammal just wanted to take a ride, and it's good that the boy wasn't stingy in this regard. Here we have a squirrel whose meeting with people in the next video clearly didn't go as planned. The animal, as the video's author recounted, was always known for its friendliness, but on this day, even such a wonderful trait turned into a frightening circumstance. The squirrel hopped over to meet the girl and got too close. At first, the person liked it, but then it started to scare her. Nevertheless, the creature was too brave and clearly didn't intend to turn back, so the squirrel began to chase the girl, which once again greatly frightened her. Ultimately, their first meeting was unsuccessful, and the girl hid from the friendly squirrel in the house. I hope their relationship improves soon. But I have much less faith in the union between the man relaxing in a tent and the bear studying him. As you understand, the person didn't feel it. He calmly napped and had pleasant dreams. Well, at that moment, the most dangerous predator was sniffing him with great curiosity. Everything good comes to an end, and this meeting was no exception. At a certain point, the man woke up, jerked, and thereby sent the beast into a panic. You think the man was able to continue sleeping after that? Or did he get an inexhaustible charge of energy for the next couple of days? Oh, I think I found the perfect interpretation of how quickly the bear ran away from that man. Look at this. In the video, shot by a resident of North Carolina, we see a small and cute turtle moving towards the water. At a certain point, when the creature approached the ramp, I slightly worried, thinking it wouldn't handle such a steep slope. But then the shelled creature turned on an extra gear and rushed down so fast as if his life directly depended on it. Watching all these funny animal moments is great, but sometimes you want to see all this natural beauty in person. To do this, people go to reserves, rent a car, and drive around the open territory, encountering various animals. Guests in the next video, for example, encountered monkeys in such conditions. At first, the primates jumped on the car and seemed to wait for the driver to speed up. But of course, people weren't going anywhere. When the primates realized they were thwarted, they decided to get a little revenge and broke one of the wipers on the windshield. Well, would it have been difficult for people to give them a ride? In general, it's better never to joke with animals. Even if it suddenly seems to you that they're too big and clumsy, that they'll never get to you, stay away and don't get too close. In short, don't repeat the mistake of the person in this video. The man was boating with his friend and accidentally encountered a giant anaconda in the water. It's well known that the anaconda is the most massive snake in the world fauna. It's so large that it decided to move into the water and live there to use less energy for moving. Based on this, the man thought he could play with it however he wanted. But as soon as the person stuck his curious nose just a bit further from the boat, he immediately felt the full wrath of the anaconda. The giant leaped out of the water and almost snapped at his hand. After that, the person immediately stopped joking with it and left the snake alone. But the one who wouldn't leave it at that moment for the world is a raccoon. The shameless beast sat in a dark cave, waiting for the right moment. It watched as the people a few feet away carelessly had fun, laughed, and fished. But suddenly, as soon as one of them finally got lucky, our raccoon decided to take action. It crawled out of the cave, ignoring those around, and headed straight for the fish. It reached it, grabbed it with its tenacious teeth, turned around, and disappeared from sight. And the rascal didn't even thank people. Can you believe that?
What the fuck?
Although it seems that animals generally don't have the habit of thanking people for gifts, in the next video, a kind girl also decided to treat an animal, this time a turtle. But instead of gratitude, it slowly and confidently opened its mouth and then scared the person to death. And how do you feed animals after that? Can anyone explain? The only thing that, in fairness, should be noted is that the turtle wasn't just any turtle, but a caiman turtle. It would be strange to expect calm and kind behavior from such turtles since they're known for their excessive aggressiveness and active self-defense at any given opportunity. And these sudden lunges are an art form in their own right. Horror movie scriptwriters should take note. The next story will be particularly relevant for all those who have a four-legged pet at home. As you know, the fashion for clothing for animals is gaining more and more momentum. First and foremost, this applies to dogs and cats. People find it amusing when their pet is dressed in cute little shoes and an equally adorable costume. But have you thought about how the pets themselves feel? Do they experience discomfort? Or, on the contrary, something positive? I never thought about it before, and this video literally brought me back to reality. The dog in the video made it clear that this trendy costume wasn't to her liking. Just look at her face. By the way, just because a pet wags its tail doesn't mean it likes it. Most likely, the dog was just overwhelmed with emotions at that moment. If I were the owner, I'd quickly take that costume off and leave her alone. Otherwise, you'll anger the dog and she'll stop helping altogether. She won't even guard the house. But if a person lives on a farm, then it's no big deal. A regular domestic chicken, judging by this video, can easily take on the role of a guard. A courier visited people, delivered an order, and was about to leave, but then he was met by a two-legged road patrol representative. As you can see, the chicken wasn't intending to let the guest go easily. It perfectly stalled for time so that, if necessary, the owner could arrive at the scene. But since it was just a regular courier and nothing criminal happened, the guest got away with a scare and returned home safely. Oh, now this is what I call a stylish turtle. Divers were diving underwater and didn't expect to see anyone, but on that day they did. They encountered a rocker turtle with a signature green mohawk on its head. Amusingly, the witnesses, who almost daily interact with underwater inhabitants, couldn't explain such a hairstyle. What also defies explanation is the confident and calm behavior of the cat when a tiny bird was continuously circling around it. Moreover, the bird wasn't just flying nearby, but was also shouting something after it. It was clearly defending its native territory. But the cat wasn't the least bit bothered. I don't know about you, but I felt a little sorry that such a combative and militant attitude went unnoticed and seemed almost in vain. Speaking of in vain, hours spent watching cartoons where the main characters are always escaping somewhere haven't gone to waste. The dog in this video caught a glimpse of an escape on TV and apparently clearly remembered it. As soon as she had the opportunity, the four-legged decided not to hesitate and to fulfill her long-standing dream. What came of it, you can see for yourself. Many animals are just as concerned as humans about arranging their homes, creating incredible architectural masterpieces, amazing ultra-strong structures, and even small towns. Next, you'll see the most interesting animal dwellings. Spider nest. Spiders are the creatures that it's better not to disturb. Otherwise, they scatter in different directions, and it looks frightening. To put it mildly, what unites the nest of spiders is the material from which they're built. There are cases when the arthropods hide in some materials, but most often they weave a house of their own cobweb. And here, everything can vary greatly, including the size of the appearance of spider houses. They can be round, made in the form of a maze, ribbon, in the form of tubes, or even in the form of a triangle. It all depends on the spider and its needs. However, what remains unchanged is, as I said, the cobwebs. In any case, it's one of the strongest and most elastic materials created by nature. Sometimes it can be even stronger than steel with the same weight. No one can unravel the secret of this miracle of nature to this day. It's only known that the cobweb consists of protein threads, which the spider secretes from special glands. These threads consist of amino acids and have a complex molecular structure. The chemical composition of the cobweb can vary among certain species of spiders and even among members of the same species, depending on the functions they perform. I once mentioned the purpose of their homes. Well, in spiders, they can be the following: protective, hunting, as well as comfortable reproduction. It's also surprising that each of the types of the houses in different individuals looks different. Some, for example, are able to create special vibrating threads that notify the owner of potential prey caught in its cobweb. Sociable weaver. What's interesting in a bird that has no unique appearance and is comparable in size to a common sparrow? It turns out that it can surprise us in a way that no one else can. Let's start with the fact that this beauty is very light. It weighs less than an ounce. It lives in South Africa in very large colonies of up to 1,000 animals. The birds are monogamous. The male and female are almost indistinguishable from each other. Sociable weavers eat seeds, berries, fruit, and occasionally they eat insects. But that's all classic. That's the basics. The most interesting part begins when it comes to nest building. Look at the way they make them. It looks as if modern scientists or volunteers had a hand in it, but it's not the case. It's the work of a single colony of sociable weavers. Each of the birds builds its own nest for hatching chicks, but the result of joint work is a whole city of up to 26 feet in length and 6.5 feet in height. Of course, they're not able to build it everywhere. First of all, the group of sociable weavers assesses their capabilities of the tree, whether it can withstand their passion for building, and then the process of erecting the nest begins. What's no less amazing, the inner room keeps the temperature perfectly and allows the birds to warm up on chilly nights. External chambers serve for rest during the day because the temperature in African savannas sometimes warms up to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. And at night, the external chambers cool down perfectly and keep comfortable temperature. Scientists still do not understand how such a miniature creature has mastered this difficult technique. After all, in addition to the complex structure, the birds also use completely different materials, including grass, soil, and sand. As a result, the house is stable even in strong winds or heavy precipitation. Honduran white bat. Bats. They're so nasty, big, and dangerous. Only someone who's completely unfamiliar with these creatures would say such a thing. In fact, bats never actually attack people, especially Honduran white bats. Are these little creatures even capable of doing anything bad? Look into their pure and naive eyes. It seems to me that you can tie a bow to their body and give it to children instead of kittens or rabbits. Okay, I was kidding about the gift, of course. After all, these creatures are very hard to find because they live in the wilds of Central and South America. Somewhere out there, far, far away in impenetrable jungles among huge forests, there can be these tiny creatures which unwittingly merge with the evergreen forests. Yes, you heard it right. These bats don't care about life in wet caves that their larger relatives enjoy. Honduran white bats want a lush leaf to nibble on along the central rib. The leaf blades curve downward, and a kind of tent is created. But it's without a floor. The bats cling to the inverted house with the help of suckers on their limbs and can live there in groups of several individuals. It turns out to be a kind of eternal tent and eternal summer, where only scary stories or guitar songs are missing for complete idle. The most attentive of you will definitely have a logical question. Why did I say that Honduran white bats merge with evergreen forests? How's that possible? Well, there are several theories. First, the light that passes through the holes they chew through gives the bats a greenish hue. Secondly, a bunch of white creatures huddled together resembles a hornet's nest, with which no one wants to have problems. And thirdly, in this position, these tiny creatures look more like some unusual fruit rather than hidden bats. All this together helps Honduran white bats avoid unnecessary contact with forest dwellers. And now let's talk about the red ovenbird, a representative of one of the largest groups of birds in South America, about the life of which little is known, despite this fact. However, we're interested only in its nest. So I suggest that we go straight to it. Thankfully, people know about the construction of the nest by the red ovenbird. They know that the bird is a real master of its craft, able to build an incredibly strong and reliable nest of clay. Moreover, it not only does not collapse because of the wind, but even if a person wants to stir it up, it'll be extremely problematic to do so. After all, the house of the ovenbird weighs no less than 11 pounds. And sometimes pairs of builders build a joint house and do something even more impressive. It's unclear how, but with evolution, these smart birds have learned to add their houses to absolutely any terrain, to some tree, to the back of the window of the nearest house of people, and even to a bush, which is fragile at the first glance. And the construction is not only reliable, but also very comfortable. Inside, it's always warm and quite humid. However, even such beauties have their shortcomings. For example, there are bugs in their houses. The birds can't resist them, so sometimes they're forced to leave the house or put their chicks into another, better house of their neighbors. Bowerbird. I suggest you look at the bird about which it's safe to say that it brings and drags everything into its house. However, in its case, these actions are justified. It doesn't have a particularly impressive appearance. Its beak is normal. Its size is normal as well. Plumage is the same as most other birds. No flying tricks or pirouettes in the air. So what do? How can they attract the attention of the opposite sex? Bowerbirds have been searching for an answer to this question for a long time and finally found their vocation. They're creative natures which are born to create. Their house can be considered a real work of art because it takes a lot of time to arrange it. The bird drags different, unusual branches, decorates the dwelling with berry juice, all kinds of fruit or flowers. It also adds insects to the interior. In general, it does everything that it desires. And when its life's work is done, it invites a bird of the opposite sex to its home and instantly has its attention and interest in it. Bear house. We all know what a bear's house looks like. It's been shown in cartoons and written about in fairy tales, hasn't it? A 3-room hut with big spoons and equally big plates. Or have I got that wrong? Okay, joking aside, the bear's den is actually no less interesting than described in fairy tales. In order to choose the most comfortable place for hibernation, bears spend a lot of time looking for a suitable hole. If such a hole cannot be found, they start digging the ground on their own. It's not for nothing that nature awarded these big creatures with such sharp and large claws, right? Then, as soon as the hole is ready for arrangement, the bear starts working on the floor. It'll lay moss on it and add some dry branches that have fallen to the ground. At this point, the bear evaluates the place and decides how much bedding is needed. If it builds a dwelling on the swamp, it means that it's necessary to collect building materials a little longer to keep the interior dry. And when it's winter, the bear will make repairs and add a small hole to its pit to act as ventilation. Hedgehog's nest. Have you ever wondered how hedgehogs live? Here's how. They build their nests in very inconspicuous places, trying to disguise them as much as possible. Hedgehogs eat everything they come across: worms, millipedes, bees, fruit, wasps, beetles, snails, mushrooms, eggs, larvae, and even snakes. They try to settle in not too dense deciduous forests and bushes. Hedgehogs spend their entire day mostly in their nest. They build nests in bushes, holes, caves, abandoned burrows of rodents, or in tree roots. The nest is usually 6 to 8 inches in diameter and contains a bed of moss, dry grass, or leaves. As you can see, the home of hedgehogs is not very large, so they often have to huddle together and live side by side, curled up in one big ball. Swallow's nest. Usually, both future parents build the nest. Sometimes they may be helped by a single male, hoping for the favor of the lady of the future home. Often it happens that the female as well as the male has relations on the side, but the union doesn't break up. The place for the nest is chosen by the male. It's usually open areas with low vegetation near the water. They build nests in any place where people live, under the roof of a house, in the barn, and tunnel. The neighborhood with humans is chosen for a reason. Humans are quite peaceful to these birds, and other predators are frightened away by the human appearance. These birds either settle individually or in groups of up to 20 couples. At the same time, it's not a colony, but rather a bird city, each couple living its own life. The nest is built of clay, soil, grass, and small sticks. The inside is lined with feathers, down, or wool. It takes 3 to 12 days to build. Nightingale's nest. In nightingales, only females build nests. It takes 2 to 6 days for one individual to build a nest. The favorite habitats of nightingales are river valleys covered with bushes, field marshes, and bushes near water. The bowl-shaped nest itself is built either on the bushes or on the ground. On the outside, it's made of dry last year's leaves, tightly adjoining each other, while on the inside it's covered with thin, dry grasses. The nightingale sings, by the way, either to find a chosen one or to defend itself from other nightingales. While singing, it usually sits hunched over with its wings hanging down and its tail raised. When the nightingale finds a mate, the mate begins to build a nest and the nightingale flies off in search of food. Nightingales prefer to lay eggs in late May or early June. It then takes about 15 days to hatch. The chicks grow and mature during the whole summer, and then in early September the whole family flies away to the south. When the chicks are old enough to leave their parents, the cycle repeats again. Weaver ant. And what about the weaver ant? These amazing little guys build their anthills using not sticks and grains of sand, but leaves. Watching them at work is very interesting. By collective efforts, they hold the leaves in a certain position, and then with the help of silk, they securely bind the leaves together. These ants' nests come in a variety of sizes, ranging from a couple of twisted leaves to giant architectural wonders of 20-inch radius. To crawl into a human body, to kill a victim in 10 minutes. Keep watching as I'll show you the world's most dangerous spiders and what they're capable of. Brazilian wandering spiders. Not every spider has earned a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, but this spider has, and its title is epic, the most venomous spider on the planet. At the same time, it can be called the most dangerous spider in the world, although this title is claimed by another spider. You'll learn about it soon, but for now, let's talk about these arthropods. Contrary to the name, Brazilian wandering spiders can be found not only in Brazil, they're widespread in many territories of South and Central America, from Brazil, Venezuela, and Uruguay to Peru, Ecuador, and Guyana. These creatures are also called banana spiders. Firstly, they like to live on banana palms, and secondly, they frequently hide in banana boxes that are exported to European countries. The venom of this spider genus contains a powerful neurotoxin. In minimal doses, it's even useful and has a therapeutic effect, but in toxic concentration causes loss of muscle control with subsequent respiratory arrest, which leads to paralysis and eventually to asphyxiation. A spider bite is quite painful. The venom causes immediate infection of the lymphatic system, and its entry into the circulatory system leads to heart failure in 85% of cases. Insects and rodents die almost instantly. The death of larger creatures can come in 10 to 15 minutes. These spiders are aggressive and assertive, so they're a huge threat to literally any organism on the planet. Fortunately, there's an antidote for the venom of the Brazilian wandering spider, so the reported number of deaths from the bites of these spiders is small. There is also an antidote for the bite of the next dangerous spider, the Sydney funnel web spider from Australia. Many people call it the most dangerous spider on the planet. What's interesting, it's also listed in the Guinness Book of World Records. Together with the banana spider, it's considered the most venomous spider on the planet. The Sydney spider is smaller than the Brazilian spider, but in many aspects it's even more aggressive. It bites at almost every opportunity and does it several times in a row. In one attack, it inflicts several painful bites at once, leaving the victim with marks and other wounds. Its bite is very powerful. This spider can even bite through the fingernails of a human. The venom acts on the human nervous system and can finish them off. Fortunately, an antidote has been available to doctors since 1981, and no deaths have been reported since then. Interestingly, the venom of the Sydney funnel web spider is dangerous only to primates. At the same time, it has no effect on other mammals, such as dogs or cats. I wish I could call Sydney funnel web spiders the most biting in the world. After all, not every spider can bite through a fingernail. But in terms of jaw strength, these arthropods are still inferior to spiders of the Mesae-Schmau-Shenidae family. Spiders with such a complicated name demonstrate mind-boggling speed. Their jaws close in 0.12 milliseconds. Even in super slow motion, their bite looks incredibly fast. It's considered to be the fastest in the animal world. Therefore, these spiders simply cannot be called non-dangerous. By the way, they have another name, trap-jaw spiders. What's interesting, this is not the only such animal. There are ants with the same trap-jaw name. They're also known as Odontomachus. They too are distinguished by their super powerful jaws. The closing speed of the jaws in trap-jaw ants reaches 143 miles per hour. It goes without saying that no prey has time to dodge the attack of these living traps. Their jaws are so powerful that an ant can fly into the air simply by sharply closing their jaws and pushing them off the ground. But let's get back to spiders. Next up is a no less dangerous arthropod, the six-eyed sand spider. But actually, no less dangerous is an understatement. The fact is that with some reservations, this spider can be safely called the most lethal on the entire planet. It has a 100% lethality rate. All people who have been bitten by the spider have died. But not everything is so scary, because only 2 cases of an attack by a six-eyed sand spider on a person have been recorded. Still, it's truly dangerous. These creatures possess venom that produces a pronounced necrotic effect. It spreads instantly through the body and affects tissues. The bite can cause extensive necrosis of the affected areas. In addition, the venom can destroy red blood cells, causing oxygen deprivation. What's even creepier is that there's no antidote to the venom of these monsters. But it's not all that bad. Six-eyed sand spiders are not aggressive, they're fearful, shy, and try to avoid humans. So getting a fatal bite is not so easy. But just in case, these arthropods live in America, Africa, and South Asia. Keep this in mind. Not all spiders are dangerous to humans. Many of them are dangerous only to creatures as small as themselves. The spider Avarcha culicivora seems particularly epic in this respect. Otherwise, it's called the vampire spider. And that's the essence. It likes the taste of blood very much. The main prey of this arthropod is female mosquito. Not all of them, but only those that have recently tasted blood. This is the only animal known to science that chooses its prey based on what the preys eat. Vampire spiders can smell mosquitoes even blindly, but still, their eyes help them a lot in the hunt. The spider species has excellent eyesight, which allows them to distinguish mosquito species based on their body structure as well as their sex by shape of their antenna. Based on smell and visual contact, the spider approaches the female mosquito in tree trunks and buildings and eats them. The preys are mostly malaria mosquitoes, the ones that spread malaria, which kill hundreds of thousands of people in Africa. But why is a spider doing this at all? Wouldn't it be easier to feed on the blood of a victim and leave the mosquitoes alone? No, it's not easier. Humans would swat vampire spiders the same way they swat mosquitoes, so any such vampire hunting humans would be risky. Mosquitoes, on the other hand, can't swat anyone, so it's much safer and more reliable to hunt them. Let's return to spiders, which are dangerous to humans. Spiders are dangerous not only with their powerful venom, painful bites, and other things. After all, they can also penetrate the human body. This has happened more than once. For example, in 2014, the victim was Dylan Thomas. The guy came from Indonesia with an unusual scar. From the outside, it might look like a scar from surgery, but in fact, the bright red line is the marks of a tropical spider. At first, the scar wasn't that big and looked more like an ordinary bite, but after a couple of days, the red marks crept up. When Dylan returned home, he went to his doctor, who told him that the arthropod had entered his body through the scar from an appendectomy. But that's not the only case. For example, a couple of years ago, an elderly Chinese woman went to the hospital complaining of itching and sharp pain in her ear. The pensioner said there was ringing in her ears. As you've already guessed, there was a spider in the woman's ear. Not only it lived there, but also weaved a whole web inside. The doctor paralyzed the arthropod with eardrops and removed it with tweezers. Something similar had happened the year before. In 2019, a woman went to the doctor with complaints of pain in her ear. As it turned out, a small spider had settled in the external ear canal. They managed to get it out too. In fact, such cases are not at all uncommon. Spiders in the ears are a fairly common phenomenon. So if you have a sudden pain in your ear, you'll now know what cause may be. Chilean recluse spider. Still, venomous spiders are far more dangerous to humans than those that settle in the body. Next, we have just such a monster. Despite the name, the Chilean recluse spider lives not only in Chile, it can also be found in many countries of South Africa, from Peru, Ecuador, and Argentina to Uruguay and Brazil. It's one of the largest recluse spiders. The spider actually grows up to 1/3 to 5.5 inches in length. A large enough size is not all that it can scare with. Its bite is much more frightening because it's compared to a cigarette burn. After a while, it causes cell death and skin death. In some cases, death may occur. Lethality ranges from 3 to 4 to 10% of all cases. In addition, it takes many months to treat a painful bite. No wonder that this spider is considered the most dangerous among all recluse spiders. And finally, let's take a look at the largest spider on the planet, which is the Goliath tarantula, also known as the Goliath bird eater, or the Theraphosa blonde. Its size is frightening and astonishing. Its body length reaches 4 inches, which is unsurpassed, but much longer are the legs of these arthropods, which grow up to 12 inches in length. No wonder this spider practically doesn't fit on the palm of a human's hand. Very big! Fortunately, at least this spider is not so dangerous to humans. Of course, it can attack and bite, but the consequences of the attack will be limited to a few symptoms. The lethal outcome is out of the question. But the Goliath tarantula is dangerous for many animals. It eats mice, arthropods, lizards, worms, and amphibians. Sometimes it eats birds in order to somehow live up to its name, but this is the exception rather than the rule. That's all, guys. Which spider impressed you the most? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later.